Okay, going live with it. So you're in an argument. You're in an argument. You and somebody who matters to you disagree about something that matters to you. The argument becomes intractable. You're both fucking right. No, I'm fucking right. I'm right about this. You need to admit that you're fucking wrong about this, and then everything's going to be okay. Right? The narrative of every argument from the perspective of the ego ever. Right? I'm right, you're wrong, and the moment you admit that you're wrong, everything's going to be okay. Oh my God. Millennia of incalculable suffering engendered in this dynamic. Millennia of incalculable suffering, right? Everybody's wrong and everybody's right. Everybody is wrong about something in this conversation, and everybody's right about something in this conversation. But the fact is that if you're waiting for the other person to admit where they're wrong, then you're probably going to be waiting a long time. And BT dubs, you're in your ego. Because when you are ready to ask yourself, where have I stepped out of my impeccability in this conversation? Where have I left the solid ground of my integrity in this process? When you're willing to ask yourself that question and answer it honestly, and then bring that vulnerably to the person that you're talking to, everybody wins. Everybody fucking wins. Anytime we're in a conversation where one person wins and one person loses, everybody loses. It is a game of diminishing returns. It is that shit. You may get what you want today, but it has an high APR. You're borrowing against the relationship at a high percentage rate when you get what you want today out of the interaction at the expense of your integrity and at the expense of the connection. So what restores connection? When obviously, if they would just admit that they're fucking wrong or see it from my point of view, then everything would be just fine. What always starts the process of actual connection is when I can search my own integrity and find where I have crossed a boundary for myself, a boundary of impeccability. And when I can bring that forward and say, I see that when I did this, when I spoke condescendingly to you about this topic, that it caused pain for you. I see the way that it turned you away from this interaction. I see the impact it had on you. And I regret that because it's not in my integrity. In my highest, most exquisite care for you and our relationship, I would not have done that. And I'm out of integrity to that degree. And when I can show up in a conversation with that level of integrity, it's called accountability. When I can show up with that level of integrity, I start making amends. I start making inroads. I soften. Because this game of I'm right, you're wrong is so hard. It's so fucking hard. It's so tight. It's so tense. And the moment I can say, fuck, yeah, you're right. Right? Here is a dynamic you may not recognize. Person A is pissed about something. And they're making it person B's fault. You fucking did this, and it's your fault that I'm feeling this way because you did this. And person B is like, fuck you, I'm not responsible for your experience, I'm not responsible for your emotions. And we're just in the thing. We're totally in the thing. Right? Now, it's gonna go one of two ways. Person A is demanding person B take responsibility for something. That demand energy, that blame energy is making it harder for person B to say, fuck, I blew it, you're right. Person B is not taking fucking responsibility for their impact. And they're holding on to something. They're holding on to their autonomy and their need to be free. I can do whatever I want. You're not the boss of me. Right? These are exaggerated dynamics, but we all fucking know we've been on both sides of them. Now, it's going to shift one way or another. Either they're both going to fucking take their ball and go home and shit's over, or they're going to swallow their disappointment and frustration, and it's just going to add to the background static of mistrust and misunderstanding in the relationship, whatever it is, whether it's your intimate partnership, you and your boss, you and your coworker, you and the guy who sells you hot dogs. Like, I don't care who it is. These dynamics are universal. Or person A is going to recognize that they're bringing demand energy to a situation and they're not taking full responsibility for their own experience. And they're going to say, wow, like, I realized how much I was putting that on you and I regret it. And I want to take responsibility for the pain that I brought to this interaction, for the expectations I brought to this interaction. And just say that, like, I'm not saying what you did was okay, but I recognize, like, the powder keg that I brought to this interaction, right? Or person B is going to say, oh, man, it's so hard for me to contact my care for you when you are leveraging these demands on me. But I want you to know that after just checking my own integrity and the way that I want to operate in the world, that what I did not meet my integrity in this way. And I see that it had this impact on you. And I want to acknowledge that and say that I'm sorry. And I don't have to take full responsibility for your experience to do that. But I promise you, whether you're person B or you're person A, when you can have the generosity of spirit, the spaciousness of heart, and the humility to just acknowledge to somebody who's not acknowledging their own responsibility what is your own and what you brought to this and how you contributed to this relationship going off course in a way that's painful for both of you, everybody wins. Everybody wins. Because we're no longer playing the one team loses, one team wins game. We're never playing that game in relationship. We're never fucking playing that game. I don't care if it's political relationships. That's a whole nother live video. But in the game of relationships, the person who can bring their humility and their integrity and their honest assessment of what engenders the greatest impeccability and care forward wins for everyone. It softens everybody. Instead of hard, like, no, my way, no, you're wrong, we go into, oh, fuck, I'm imperfect just like you. And I blew it here. And I recognize that didn't contribute to us connecting. I still don't maybe agree with you over here, but I recognize that this didn't help. And I want to open up the conversation. Like, this is what I wanted to bring to you tonight. Because if you've ever been in a fucking argument, if you're currently in an argument, check your integrity. Check it. Find the place, even if it's the fucking mote in your eye while there's a 2x4 in their eye. Take responsibility for the mote in your eye. Take responsibility for anything that you've done to take the course of this conversation from connection, love, care, and consideration to adversary and conflict. Take responsibility for it. And that is scary as fuck. And that is risk. And that is leaning in. And that is doing things that nobody likes to do, but everybody benefits from somebody having the courage to do. please have the courage to do that somewhere in your life today. That's all I got. I love you. That's no bullshit. Joshua Hathaway signing out.